All right, welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me, we've got Professor David Awurawa, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and as well as Okweyemi Adamulekun, Executive Director of Enough is Enough. But the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project has called on President Tinubu to investigate the $1.5 billion World Bank loan obtained by the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. The group also urged the president to probe all the alleged mismanagement of the Chinese loans of $3.121 billion obtained by federal government. SERAP asked Tinubu to direct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi and appropriate anti-corruption agencies to promptly and thoroughly investigate how the loan was spent, thereby reducing poverty and social protection across the state. So economist and financial analyst Dr. Boniface Chizea joins me on the show. Great to have you.
Thank you, Refinery. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We've been taking a lot of loans, but the problem is we don't see what we do with that money. So SERAP is saying investigate this 1.5 billion. How do we actually even get the money to trickle down in the first place? And what do you think about this 1.5 billion?
Well, I think the first thing to say is to give kudos to SERAP. One of the things that's happened in this country is that we have state capture. Is rife. And so you find that executives have taken over the place and those are supposed to checkmate and cross-check and do due diligence and so on and so forth. They're not living up to their responsibility. And so when that is happening, so we are in a mess. That's why we're in this mess that we are. And so so we have to salute, civil society organizations. They should be up and doing. At some point in time, they went to sleep. And so not much was happening. And we were just adrift. And nobody could call anybody to account. And impunity was all over the place.
Who's captured the state here?
Those in leadership position.
Who are those in leadership position?
Well, we should know who's in leadership. The president is in leadership position. He's number one person in the country.
So is he the one that's captured the state?
Well, I don't know. I think the structure we have at the center has captured. I wouldn't want to personalize it. I think that they've captured it in the sense that it's obvious. National Assembly it's not doing what it should do. So you have a democracy and you have three parts of the structure that should have the responsibilities to discharge. And then before us, we'll see it clearly that this responsibility is not being discharged. So we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And there were reasons for putting those checks and balances to make sure that nobody goes to sleep and nobody thinks that they could do whatever they wanted to do and that nobody was going to ask any questions. And when you now throw back, I bring back the fact that even the elections, also there's no accountability. So people vote and then the votes don't count, and people get to power. They don't feel that they're beholden to the electorate. So they believe that so impunity is rife. So you could do anything.
So are these structures more powerful than the people?
Well, I think that's exactly what it is. We manage. That's why we talked about state capture. So so people are taking over the structures and personalize the structures, and so the structures are not doing what they're supposed to do. So structures and people. The people that operate the structure. So if people are compromised, so they don't do what they're supposed to do. So the structure on its own cannot act.
Okay, so the president, and this will also segue me into another thing I want to ask you. If SERAP is talking about this 1.5 billion, the president also talked about recently about another 570 billion, that had been pushed out to the states. And the states are saying, we didn't see any money. It was supposed to be COVID-19 money. These monies are not free. They are loans. We didn't see any money. So who is telling us the truth? Who is telling us the lie? Or is this the state that has captured both the governors and the president?
I shouldn't have thought so. I think that we should have, there's a body in this country, institutionally, that should have the responsibility to monitor and ensure that the debts are well procured in the first place and they are utilized for the purposes they are supposed to utilize. We have a Fiscal Responsibility Act that says exactly what national debts and foreign debts should be used for. It's clear, they be used for capital projects and for human capacity development. Now, is that being done? I think that's the challenge. And so we go to the states, people are taking money. The states are not supposed to borrow any money except they are cleared by the center. And so, but there's a whole place we are running riots. And when that is the case, it means that people are taking this money, and we know what goes on in this country.
So who do we even believe here?
Well, I think
the likes of them, Governor Sheyi Makinde, that said, "Oh, we don't know what you're talking about as regards this money," or the president, because if the president can announce, we've put some money out there for the states, go meet the state governors. In fact, a couple of times in the papers, they've released how much they put forward for the states. And the governors had loggerheads. And all of these measures that have been taken since the removal of subsidy and float in the naira has not trickled down to the people.
Yeah, again, I think it's the same thing. You remove the subsidy, then you have a quantum increase in naira, and then you now go straight back and you allocate it to the states. I think that was the mistake we made in the first place. You remove the subsidy, and then of course the naira itself, the value of the naira itself, it's a bloated naira when you put it in real terms. But then that money goes, and then you not expect you go to state governors. And what then do you get? You find that once you have FAC allocation over that period, the rate of exchange naira is received the hammer. So that money is being exchanged for dollars, to be stored. Exactly, that's the problem we have in this country. And that's where we are. That's why we're not making the sort of progress we should make.
What do you say to people that say, okay, SERAP will call for an investigation and we don't see the end of it? Because we never see the end of anything. Yeah, you remember off the mic, we never see the end of anything.
Yes.
Some people are already even saying that even this investigation with the NMPC, we'll never see the end of it.
Yes.
And so what happens to those people? Or is this part of the state capture?
Well, I think it is, because I think that SERAP has asked the World Bank to investigate. So the World Bank is they're also complicit. So there's some money they've given. They shouldn't. They should lend money that you could trace that money.
Do you think the World Bank is part of the state capture?
Yeah, I think so. I think that the World Bank, they've gotten Nigeria to do some of the things, do their biddings, and then as compensation, so you've asked us to go and float the naira, and now we've reversed ourselves. We're now going to do auction, Dutch auction.
Do you think the World Bank is a problem?
I think so. The World Bank, IMF, they've been problems in this environment.
How do you think we'll do without them? Can we do without them?
Well, it's going to be tough, because you belong to a global thing. You have so many countries, and the World Bank has the responsibility to make sure that we have harmony, that's interaction, that's trade relationship between the states and so on and so forth, and to try and manage the process so that there's no confusion. So the World Bank should be doing that. But then whenever a country comes into some crisis, balance of payment crisis, the World Bank will come with the same policies, and these policies are not.
So is it the World Bank that pushed on into the balance of payment crisis, or our
no? Well, we mismanage.
So why do we blame the World Bank if we are not the ones that called them in? It's our own greed that called them in the first place.
Let me tell you. The SAP. That's why SAP was 1986.
Yeah.
Was resisted because it was felt that World Bank was bad story. It wasn't good news. To anybody.
But we finally yielded in '86, and that's where we.
So we didn't take that money. We swallowed the pains. Swallow the drugs without getting the benefits. I thought that was silly. So you take the drugs and then it didn't cure you. And so
SEF, second tier foreign exchange market?
Second tier foreign exchange market, and so on and so forth. And that's why we're in this mess. And then recently we just said we're going to float.
But the interesting part is, in the 70s, 75, 76, just after Yom Kippur, the refrain on the streets was, we had so much money, but how to spend it. Yeah. Then we had the cement armada in 77. We started squandering the money up till the 80s. Then we had to take the World Bank bail. So we called the World Bank. We told the world that we don't know how to manage our resource. Mm-hmm. So how do we blame the World Bank where we ourselves are the problem?
Yes, we are the problem in the sense that we mismanage our resources. So we allowed debt stock balloon, and then we got ourselves in a situation where Nigeria wasn't attractive. We were not able to attract foreign loans again because then we were overborrowed and we were in default. We were not servicing our loans. And then Okonjo-Iweala came and then got us a reprieve. Got us some write-off, and we paid some $12 billion. And people were up in arms everywhere, but that didn't last long. As soon as Obasanjo left and so on, we went back to business as usual, and then we're now in this mess. And you look at the debt situation today. We're talking of 100 something trillion.
121, yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of money. So within the last 3 months, the debt stock has increased by 20-something trillion naira. What have we done with it? So I know we have crisis. We have trying to manage the exchange rate that is, that is like bottomless in terms of its rates. And we're putting some monies there, and we're also spending lots of money in balance of payment support. Which really, if you take our Fiscal Responsibility Act, is not where we should be going. We're supposed, like I said earlier on, we're supposed to borrow money and put in capital projects. And put it in projects where we would have a chance of getting some revenues that would help us, to service those debts. But when you take this money, as it were, and put it into consumption, you are compounding the situation.
But haven't we breached out already? At the start of this administration, we said boldly, we're not going to touch ways and means again.
Yes.
But today we're trying to up it now by
10%, from 5% to 10%.
That's 10%. Mm-hmm. So, but we said we're not going to touch it again, and we're still trying to balance some ways and means and encumbrances we have hitherto.
Yes.
So are we learning? Do you think we've learned anything?
Well, I think that, like I said earlier on, until you get back accountability to governance, if you don't do that, if you look at what is happening, look at what's happening at the center, you look at the way people have been appointed, and you look at the size.
The biggest cabinet ever.
Cabinet, yes, 48. We're supposed to have a maximum 36. You have 38. And you look at the caliber of people that have been appointed. So if you try to become a governor and you failed, to the next thing is to become a minister. So the whole process became a settlement scheme. So people play some political roles and so on and so forth, and they never talked about people who have any expertise, to bring them into governance. And so you don't have that. So you put people even in areas that are supposed to be technical in nature. So you found characters there that you have some doubts. They have not come with any certified qualifications that proven to say this is what he's done before, and so he's going to do this job there. So you find that it's all we're modeling through, and there's confusion all over the place.
He says we should give him more time. That's what people around him are singing. Do you think if you give him 4 years, he'll turn around the economy? But
the crisis we have today, Rufai, it has no slack for time. But people are starving, people are dying. You see what's happening in Kano. You see, the crisis is much more in the north.
They say food prices are coming down.
Well, that's what I'm told. I just left a radio station, so I hear it's coming down. But we shouldn't be in this crisis. You see, one of the things we should focus is that here, the land area between Niger State and Zamfara is enough for us to go into massive.
They said they are cultivating 10 million hectares.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so.
That's what the president said.
Okay, so we should begin to do that. Because we cannot get out of this crisis. Look, we are dependent on revenue from petroleum. The future revenue has been mortgaged. We've taken loans, we pledged the revenue. One of the crisis problems you have, with getting supplies to Dangote is that, so you have your IOCs, so it's contractual. They have a share. We have 49, they have 51, and that's contractual. So they have to take it, and we are trying to dictate to them, what they have to do. And it's not done that way, because and this is why you go to the oil sector. I find that investing in the future will have issues because the people are not investing. The people are even living onshore and going offshore and so on and so forth. So those are some of the crises we have to contend with.
What do you think about the subsidy? You think it's been pulled out?
Subsidy has been pulled out long ago. I have people asking questions, and I shake my head. Let me tell you, as soon as the president came in and said subsidy was gone, and there were no. There wasn't planned, there was no plan put in place, and so on and so forth, and then the thing went. And a few months later, the prices were shooting up, and the crisis was hotting up. And I remember the president's wife, First Lady, going to Emir of Kano, and then Kano on camera was telling her that there's hunger in the land. And I related the story, a story of a family of 4 in Kano in those days. I read it in the papers, I hope it's correct, that, they got so tired, they couldn't find how to feed themselves. And they just boiled hot water, put salt in the hot water, drank it, and the next day they all died. This happened, it was underreported. And this was months ago. And immediately I saw that, I said, this crisis, this is going to lead us to crisis.
So if you say subsidy has been removed,
So
there was a document recently that the federal government released and they pulled back about a stabilization plan for the economy of some sort. And what happened in it was there was an item that says subsidy was still being paid.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. We're seeing paying subsidies. If subsidies, if we allow this thing to go, today, I mean, we still get fuel at 620, 750, and so on. You could have much more. And what we are saying now, what's happened now, could have happened much earlier. And I think the president saw that and put a cap. He put a cap on fuel price. And automatically that cap went, the fuel price couldn't have been where it is today. Well, I just bought fuel price yesterday. I think it's about 600 something naira to a liter. It couldn't have been there this long because there's no basis. You take the rate of exchange, the thing has been
fluctuating. We've been able to agree that they are still paying subsidies.
Yes, for a long time.
At this part.
Yeah, it's gone on for a long time. It's just that
despite the fact that they say they've pulled out subsidies.
No, they were paying subsidies. They were paying subsidies. They were paying subsidies, but they want to be correct. They were saying, the way it will look.
We've been able to agree
that
they're still paying subsidies as we speak.
Yes.
That's increasing also our financial obligation.
Yes.
Also, when you look at it, the floating of the naira, which they are back to defending now as we speak.
Yes.
So would you say those two policies were well thought out in the first place?
No, they weren't. As some of us economists, we told them that you don't float the naira because there's no market for dollar in the economy. Who said so? Some of these economists, they tell you they float it and the thing will not find its place and money is going to flow in and so on and so forth. You don't do that. And we've tried it before. And we did that, and what some of us said exactly happened. And they got to a stage when the naira is going to 2,000, almost got to 2,000. And not only that, there was uncertainty for those economic agents. You can't manage, if you're a businessman, you can't manage uncertainty. So they couldn't predict what's happening to the prices. And so even where they got the thing, they made over-provision. And that exacerbated the inflationary pressure. Yeah, so they made over-provision. And that even was worse because then if you're a businessman and you've done one round of business and you have your products and you're going to sell your products and then you don't know what the rates would be next time around, how are you going to manage?
So those policies to you were ill thought out?
Completely ill thought out. And
you think this administration has got the capacity to fix it?
But they have to learn by force.
Do you think they're learning?
Yes, they're learning. They're learning, and that's why you find that.
How do you think they're learning after there's another supplementary budget and the willingness to still spend on expenditures like the jets they've been talking about and other things, what a lot of Nigeria calls frivolous expenditure? Do you think that's learning?
Well, they have to learn because what is happening at Central Bank today is they've gotten the message. And like you said, retail Dutch auction is a managed float. So people are going to bid, and at some point in time, money gets exhausted, and that becomes the prevailing rate.
You think the managed float was even the best way to go in the first place?
Yes. That's exactly one of those things that, the former regime, in spite of all their shortcomings and deficiencies and the fact that they got us into this mess, one of the things that they did, which I thought we should have continued to do it, was managed float. Because you see, the demand is insatiable.
So recently, the Minister of Information and his team were, at the headquarters of this day. And one of the things, that was pointed out by President Nduka was that after the float, they could have gotten the arsenal to even be able to defend. I mean, look at the case of Ethiopia, for instance. Ethiopia too did exactly what we've eaten. They've taken the peel, the poisonous peel, some people will call it, or the haircut peel by the World Bank. And now they also have floated the birr, the Ethiopian currency. But they're also giving them some money. So some are saying we would have also gotten money by the side to be able to defend.
I thought we had some money, but that's, I think it's something that is very difficult to do. If you don't have productivity, you're not earning some dollars yourself. One of the things that the Governor Central Bank did initially was when he started hiking interest rates. And he attracted portfolio investors.
But he had inflation to deal with. So
yes. So you cannot eat your cake and have it. Yeah. And so if you're trying to attract people to come, you want to make yourself attractive, especially the fact that intrinsically you're not attractive, and you're making people who have hot money and know that they come in and they can take their money out, and then you're hiking the interest rate. And of course, you know, the trade-off in the sense that interest rate is also inflationary. It's a faster cost. And so businessmen cannot afford to attract.
But the argument they keep making then was that the textbook thing to do was to be able to have high interest rates.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not seeing a whittle down in inflation. They say, okay, the month of numbers beginning to come down, but pervasively food inflation is still over 40%. The numbers are still very high in the high territory.
Yes.
The pain is still there in the economy and all of that. But they keep arguing that it's coming down. But when you look at the stretch, from May last year to this year, we've added over 11 percentage points to inflation.
Let me tell you, Rufai, you know, if the debts, this minimum wage thing, it's a good thing it ended the way it did. You know, I have some record. I said to people, okay, we know what we've approved as minimum wage is not enough, it's not sufficient. But if we paid what the organized labor wanted, we'll be in real mess. We'll be in real mess because it will stoke up inflation, and that money they're going to get, it's going to be worthless money. You know, and so the focus for us as a country today will be to target inflation and bring it down.
How do you think we can bring inflation down?
Well, I think we're going in that direction. If we can manage the exchange rates and then, you know, force it down, and then there'll be some.
How do you mean force it down? Defend it down?
Well, yes. There are abuses. There are trade-offs. There are problems in the sense that
So do you hazard a guess we should fight with our reserves? Like we started fighting in February with our reserves, because the exchange rate went up to 1,900, in fact, touching up to 2,000 in February. Yes. Then we fought it back to about 1,100 with our reserves. Yes. Do you think we should fight that fight again?
Yes,
that cost us close to 1.1 billion.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
You think we've got the money?
Yes, we'll have to find the money. I don't know how we're going to do it because we're not in a safe place in terms of our state, you know, our debt profile. And we have a situation whereby our debt sustainability is not something that we should discuss. You know, if you are told that your revenue, you spend 100% of your revenue if you have to service your debt, then that tells you the entire story. And so that's where we are. And so there's a crisis, but then you've got to try and manage it. You know, what the other regime did, they has crisis, but they tried to manage it. You know, so that's why they didn't remove subsidy until they were just about to go. And that's why nobody was able to move subsidy, in spite of the fact that we know that subsidy payment was money that was not profitably utilized. It was money that was being hijacked. It made it possible for us to sell people to smuggle our products across the border.
I'd like to ask you this.
Yes.
I asked you a question earlier that we learn. Obviously, we don't. Why is it that we make the same mistakes? When Buhari came in 2015, this was the exact thing he did.
Yes.
He said, let's float. A lot of people advocated for a float. Then we floated. Then the naira was going to about 500 to the dollar then, from a little over 200. Then we had to go borrow some money.
Yes. We retraced our steps.
And we fought it back to about 300.
Yes.
Balance around 360, then increments went on for the 8 years.
Yes. But it's also,
but in this regard too, we've done the same thing.
Yes.
We float, we've seen the problem, we've lost over 100% of our value, while some people were saying the naira is going to find its true value at around 600-700 naira. It never worked out.
Yes.
So in 2 cycles, 8 years, we make the same mistake all over again. Is it that there are no better heads as regards what we can deploy in the economy? Because all we've done since 86 has been between a Dutch auction system, a managed float system. We go to free float sometimes when we have the allowance, we come back. But everything has been dependent on how much dollars we're getting from crude oil, which is not even sustainable in the end.
Yes, but then it all comes down to the fact that we are not doing what we're supposed to do. You know, so we are delinquent. You have your refineries. I just read in the papers that Port Harcourt, we have been told again for the umpteenth time, Port Harcourt Refinery is going to come on stream, is going to produce 2 million liters by the end, by this month, we are told. And we have refineries. And we are importing, you know, when we talked about subsidy removal, what I did say to myself is that we should have focused on making sure that we have a low-hanging fruit in this respect. We have Dangote Refinery. In fact, all the hopes we lost for that refinery coming on stream and being the partners here, they sort of help us some of our problems. Now, eventually, we harvested some crisis. You know, so what we should have done is, instead of removing subsidy, is to work to make sure you stop importation. crude importation. That's the way to go. And so you have your refineries. You have 4 refineries in this country, and we have overheads. We pay overheads, and they are not producing a drop of refined product. So how do you run a country like that?
But the way we stop it is to stop importation, but people will not allow Dangote breathe.
Yes.
He can't get products based on the agreement locally.
Yeah.
So do you really think these structures, like you said initially in this conversation, do you really think they want the Dangote refinery to work?
Well,
don't you think we are so acclimatized to importation?
Well,
have we really gotten to the end of what happened in Malta, where all of a sudden Malta, that didn't have a lot of trade with us, in the space of last year now to now, it's just grown so much, topping about 2% of our trade?
I think that what's happening is what's come out clearly is that you have conflicts of interest in the system. I mean, when Dangote came...
Who are these people?
Well, you know,
it's so powerful to mention.
You know, well, those who are supposed to be driving the process, I also have an interest that runs counter, you know, to what we should have. And then you have, it's like those who are trying to catch the thief are those stealing the money. So how are you going to catch the thief? You know, so I have conflicts of interest. So if you're going to start producing, and I'm also trying to import, and I'm getting from it, you know, then how do you expect me to?
So these special interests are more important than the suffering Nigerian people?
Well, that's what is becoming, and that's why we need to make sure we get a good governance, you know, back to the system. That's why we need to make sure that we have to clean up the electoral process, you know, so that the elections will count, you know, so the people will vote and it will count. You know, unless we begin to do that, you know, then this crisis will continue. You know, people must come there and know that for them to continue, they have to deliver. You know, they have to leave some legacies. You know, so you don't just come and then you serve your time and you feel that whatever happens, nobody's going to do anything. And what that does is you have impunity running all over the place, and that's exactly one of the crises we have. And so you find that you're appointing people, you don't care whom you appoint, and so on. If you really mean to, you know, have the job done, we just talked about the quality, the caliber of people who were appointed. As I read in the papers, you know, 11 of the ministers, 9 who failed the elections to be governors. You know, I don't want to go to the other way about those who are with EFCC and so on and so forth. So more than almost 80% of them have cases with EFCC. So how do you now begin to run a country?
Speaking of legacies, in terms of economic legacies, what legacies do you think this administration is building for itself?
Well, I think that that's what should worry them. I think that if I'm in governance today, I should be concerned. I want to leave this place and for people to look back and say, yes, during your time, you did this. You know, so you got an improvement, you got us a power supply, and so you steady it, and so on and so forth. But instead, we were just doing things, and I don't know. So you go and increase tariffs, you ban A, and so on. And companies were folding up because they couldn't pay the tariffs. They couldn't, so they were folding up. So how do you run something like that? So you are taking on policies, and those policies, you're not factoring in the fact that at the end of the day, governance is about the welfare and well-being of the people. And so you are not doing that. And then so you are just bringing policies and you're introducing them, and then you are trying to sound macho, you know, so I've done this, nobody was able to do it, so we're going to...
Do you think those policies are properly thought out?
That's what they weren't. And then you have to situate them. You don't have crisis. You have unemployment. Youth unemployment is over 40%. Misery index in the land is something else. And then so when you want to take policies, you should be saying to yourself, how are people going to take this? How is it going to impact on the people? How is it going to impact on their welfare? So how is that going to give us peace? And so you see what is happening in the land. People are talking about those in the East not being involved. They are used to it, so for them it's nothing new. They're not dependent on government. So, so they are easily entertaining themselves and looking at the rest of us. While they are prompting them to come in and say they will, Igbos must go.
Let's talk about ethnic nationalism and economy.
Yeah.
All of this, when you check the trend all over the world, always starts because of a downtime in the economy.
Yeah.
What do you think about the one you're hearing now?
Yes, well, it's happening everywhere. It's happening also in Britain. I don't know if you follow that.
Yeah.
So they're saying that Nigerians should go to, black should go, Indians should go. What tends to happen is that once you have an economy, and the economy is not performing well, and at some point in time you brought some people because you had jobs, and there are people who went, either they didn't like those jobs or they just didn't think those jobs were suitable for them. So you brought some people to do the job. So they serve the useful purpose. And so you use them. And now, so there's downtime, so there's hardship. Everybody is now feeling the pain. And so the next thing to do is to look for scapegoats. Yeah, so you look at scapegoats. And so they say, oh, these people that have come here, they've taken our jobs and so on and so. Those jobs were there in the first place, and you didn't take them. And you went out of the way to go and bring them to assist you to do those jobs. And they've come and they've left their places and they've come to live in. And it's an unfair situation for you to now turn around and say they must go. But what's happening is that those authorities are not those saying these things. Those are saying it are those who are marginalized, those who are feeling the heat.
So you think the Igbos are being used as scapegoats?
No, the Igbos are not being used as scapegoats. The Igbos situation in Nigeria is a fallout from the last election. So nobody expected that.
What do you mean it's fallout? What do you mean nobody
expected that P2B was going to do as well as he did.
Was it a crime that he did as well as he did?
Well, it shouldn't be, but it became a crime. I mean, so people were jolted. People were jolted. So
what people were jolted?
How
did it become a crime that somebody had an aspiration and he did well in an election? He didn't win.
Yes, he didn't win, but they stopped him from winning.
Who stopped him from winning?
Refinery, you asked him.
No, I'm just asking. You said, what do you mean by they stopped him from winning? Who stopped him from winning?
Well, they snatched the thing and ran with it.
Who snatched the thing and ran with it? Who snatched it and ran with it?
I'm sure you know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the questions here. Who snatched it and ran with it?
Yeah. Well, let me leave that before I have some issues myself. So
why are you leaving that? I mean, you said they snatched the thing and they ran with it.
You can see video that says if you want to win it, nobody gives you election on a platter of gold. So you grab it, you snatch it, and you run with it.
Explain to me why it's become a problem that he came third in the elections.
Well, first of all, I think it was clear to those who were in charge that he did much better. I don't have my facts, but he did
much better
than what the position that was assigned to him.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did much better, and they could look ahead and see that what we've seen, there's going to be some problems coming from this direction, and so it's like try and see how we can checkmate and make sure we stop, this.
So who are these people that say they're trying to checkmate him?
Well, the owners of the land.
Who are the owners of this land? You're laughing. Who are the owners of this land? I mean, I thought the people own the land.
Yeah, that should be the case. But so when we talk of indigenous and so on and so forth, I just watch television and talk indigenous people of Yoruba and so on. They are doing things. I think that we need to be very careful so that we don't go that way because it would. It caused a crisis, which nobody is going to be able to handle.
So you're saying all of this narrative as regards Igbophobia is related to the last election?
Yes, but it wasn't there. It wasn't there before. It's obvious.
There was always a conversation around Igbo presidency and the rights of the Igbo people and all of that.
But then nobody thought that was going to come the way it happened. And then I think people underestimated, so what was going to happen. And then when the storm came, and they saw it, and they had to. There'll be one in Lagos, for crying out loud. So, one in Lagos, and nobody ever thought that was possible. And so you can see that, why, today, that the Igbos must go. So where are they going to? People that lived here for so many years, built houses here, contributed to the building of this place. This is a national capital, and then where are they going to? So we better find a way. I think that I learned that the Patriots, asked the president to revisit our constitution. I think we better be doing that, so that we need to restructure this country.
But it's been a conversation we've had for a long while. Restructure. What does restructure mean? Even the APC came in on the restructure mantra and all of that. What does it mean? I mean, this restructure, is it economic restructuring? Is it political restructuring? How is it going to function in a system like this?
Essentially, what it means is that you have a federation. You better have a federation. What you have is a unitary system of government in place of federation. So that's
you don't want the center to be too powerful.
Yes, we don't want the center. We want the component units, to be free to develop at their own pace.
But that also had its own problems.
Well, it might have, but if you look at
had wet here in the southwest.
Yeah, if you look at Czechoslovakia, you look at Yugoslavia, you look at South Sudan, it's the same thing that led to the break of those places.
But it fell apart after Tito left.
Yes, because they were not fully. They were doing what we are doing now. If you go to Canada, so you have Quebec region, you speak French there, you speak English, and you do whatever the way it comes to you, and then you are allowed. You are allowed to run your life the way it should be done, and that's federation. I think in America it's something they have. So the governor is so powerful, it takes care of the state and so on and so forth. That's what we should have in Nigeria. But when you now put everything at the center, you have contestation for things at the center.
You give these same governors you complain about corruption every time so much power.
Yeah, but then by the time if we decentralize properly, and we now selection process would also come into
the Niger Delta was given resource control. What have they done with the money?
Well, it was abuse, because whom did you put there to manage it?
So
you put people you want to compensate.
So with this captured system,
yes,
you're saying we should give more powers to the captured states?
Like yes, but then if you earn your money, you keep it.
Okay. It's a conversation we'd like to have on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.